If you guys are like me and you are ready for the NFL 2022 season to really kick off, right, get into extra gear with free agency and the NFL draft, and you're kind of tired of these dog days of the end of February, early March, well, then go ahead and like this video because free agency is about 2 weeks away and the draft is less than 60 days away. So go ahead and hit that thumbs up icon to start today's show. What's going on, Browns fans? Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. Coming up on today's show, we got a couple segments coming your way. We'll start things off by looking at a rumor that came out that the Browns are very willing to break the checkbook out for David Njoku and make him one of the higher-paid tight ends in the NFL. And then the NFL Combine gets underway on Tuesday, so depending on when you're watching this, it could be either the day of or tomorrow. And then we'll wrap up the show by looking at an interesting quote Myles Garrett had regarding Baker Mayfield. So let's start things off by looking at David Njoku. A report came out from Mary Kay over at Cleveland.com that the Browns are prepared to pay Njoku the big dollars, right? The big bucks, double-digit figures in the millions. Now, over the weekend, Cleveland restructured the contract of Jack Conklin, which freed up about $4 million in cap space. So the Browns had about $26-ish million in cap space going into the weekend. Now maybe about 30. It's tough to say because if they were to cut Jarvis Landry, that's going to free up $15 million. So the whole pie has not been put together. But the report is the Browns are prepared to pay double-digit millions to get David Njoku back in Cleveland and have him stay for a couple more seasons at least. Here's what Mary Kay had to say about this on Cleveland.com. The Browns definitely want him back and are prepared to pay in double-digit millions he'll get on the open market. Interesting that she says on the open market, because we'll take a look at what the open market could look like for tight ends. But first, I want you guys to get in on the show. Be a part of the show. How much would you pay Njoku per year? Would you pay in double-digit millions, right? Would you go all the way above 10? Last year he made 6. So would you double his salary? Let me know what you're thinking down below. I can tell you what the top 5 highest paid tight ends are going to make in 2022. And ranging from Kittle at $15 million, Kelsey at $14.3, and then Jonnu Smith and who also went to the Patriots, the other tight end, Hunter Henry, thank you, came over for the Chargers. Producer Marsh saving my ass there. So those two guys right there, 12.5, but $12 million is as high as I would go to pay David Njoku. Listen, I think Njoku's been a good player for the Browns the past couple of seasons. When he's been on the field, he's been a fun and exciting and a catalyst at times. I go back to that Chargers game. I go back to a couple of situations where the Browns needed a big catch, and Njoku's been that kind of a target. But I don't think he's worth more than $12 million. I'm sorry, I just don't want to see Austin Hooper happen all over again for the Browns. And that contract has fallen straight on the Browns' face. It'd be something that if they could click a button to go back in time and undo it, they'd smash that button, like you should smash the subscribe button. But we'll talk about that later on. Next, though, what to watch for in the NFL Combine. So that's getting started back in Indianapolis. Media's coming back, all that good stuff. And I'm not going to lie, it can be tough to watch the Combine, myself included. It is kind of boring in a lot of ways. But if you do watch it and you do get invested, you can look like a draft wizard when April comes around. And you're like, you know what? That guy ran a good sub 40. I love what I saw out of him. So before we look at some of the great things to look for in the Combine, some of the top players reporting to it, if you guys are ready for free agency and you want to know all the leaks coming out of Berea and where the Browns are looking at, who they're looking at, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. We're putting out free content all week long, basically all year long as well. So make sure you hit that big red button and subscribe and join us here at the Cleveland Browns Report if you have not already. Now, as for the NFL Combine, who to watch for? We're going to give you 25 names to keep an eye on and just look at the Browns' biggest needs and who can fill those needs. The biggest need is the wide receiver position. And these are my top 4 guys. I have not changed off these top 4 guys. I honestly maybe would move Drake London where Treylon Burks is, or maybe flip-flop Jameson Williams. Unfortunately, Williams coming off that ACL tear in the national championship game, he is not going to be participating in any of the drills, but he'll be there for for interviews and meetings and get his knee checked out by team doctors, all that good stuff. We'll look at some other targets in just a second, but before we do, who should the Browns pick at number 13? Time to put Andrew Berry's hat on. All right, let you guys be the GM here. Who do you think Cleveland should select? Whose name do you want to see on the draft card when the Browns are on the clock? We looked at the top 4 wide receivers, but I really want to watch these guys a lot more closer. Kind of the second tier, in my opinion. I've got them ranked and how I would draft them 1 through 5. Jahan Dotson, the more I think about it, the more I like Dotson. Because the thing with Dotson is, you look at the last couple Penn State wide receivers, Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson, they were way better in the pros than in college. So maybe you wonder, is it just shitty quarterbacks in Penn State that's the reason why these wide receivers do not get drafted so high? Chris Olave, another name to keep an eye on, the speedy guy out of Columbus. David Bell, his name is probably going to soar when teams see his athletic ability. Calvin Austin and George Pickens, two more of a, we'll call them head-scratcher names, because Austin was a name the Browns were looking at during the Senior Bowl. He's not going to go in rounds 1 or 2, but maybe Cleveland wants to forego selecting a wide receiver in round number 1, and that's because they like Austin so much in round number 3. Pickens out of UGA, he's just an all-around great athlete. Unfortunately for him, he tore his ACL during spring training camp in college last spring, so he did not play much at all of the 2021 season for the Bulldogs, so we'll get a good look at Pickens this upcoming combine. As for the defensive edges to watch for, let's say Cleveland decides, you know what, we'd rather invest the wide receiver position in free agency by signing Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, Allen Robinson, one of those guys. So we can draft one of these players at the 13th overall spot. I'd be fine with going Ojabo at 13. I love Jermaine Johnson a lot. Jermaine Johnson is an excellent run-blocking defensive end, kind of like Jadeveon Clowney. So if the Browns don't get Clowney back, Jermaine Johnson could be an excellent replacement for them, for him. George Karlaftis, the edge out of Purdue, I'm honestly not very high on him. I know a lot of people are, but to me, Karlaftis is just a player who makes great plays when the offensive line has a missed assignment, and he's just sitting there waiting for an open backfield, and he takes advantage of it. Boy Mafe was a standout in the Senior Bowl. I don't think he's going to go in round 1, maybe late round 2, but if the Browns like him in round 3, they got 2 picks right there. Mafe could be a guy the Browns pick there. And then Cameron Thomas coming out of San Diego State, more of a round 2, round 3 name. So giving you guys some to keep an eye on, just in case you're watching at the bar some NFL Combine stuff and you're like, oh, Boy Mafe, I remember that Browns Report YouTube guy told me to keep an eye on him. Let's see how he performs. Johnson, to me, though, is a very popular name in round number 2, and it's a name I would love to see the Browns pick in round number 2. I personally still lean wide receiver 1-2 punch in rounds 1 and 2 because there's just so much talent, and I don't have faith in DPJ. I love DPJ, but I don't have faith in him as a wide receiver 1 or 2 just yet. Call me crazy, but I just don't see it. Schwartz didn't see enough out of him, despite being a third-round pick a year ago, for me to go in and be like, yep, he's wide receiver 3. So if the Browns especially move on from Jarvis Landry, then you got to invest in the wide receiver position in free agency, or you can go the cheaper route and draft 2 guys and give Baker Mayfield some new toys to work with. We'll look at some other positions to keep an eye on in the Combine, but first, there's a great t-shirt combo going on at Fanatics. Rep your Browns gear when you go to chatsports.com/Browns combo. I got that link in the comments and the description of today's video. So if you want to rep some Browns gear, you want to, get some new shirts in your closet, head on over to chatsports.com/Browns combo. Get 2 shirts on sale. Great deal going on thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Now we look to some defensive tackles because I don't expect Malik McDowell or Malik Jackson to return. Andrew Billings was prematurely signed to the Raiders over the weekend, so that creates a huge void. Jordan Davis and Perion Winfrey are my top 2 guys. Winfrey, another Senior Bowl standout. Then you have Devontae Wyatt, who is a great defensive tackle. It's just unfortunate for him. He stands next to this guy. If you thought that Devontae Wyatt, number 95, is a small guy and then Jordan Davis is just a large human being, no. Wyatt is a huge guy. And that makes Jordan Davis a boulder of a human being. And so Jordan Davis, in my opinion, could be an absolute steal for a team that's just one piece away from putting their defense together to be a Super Bowl defense. Not a playoff defense, but a Super Bowl defense. Going back to my list of defensive tackles to watch for, Logan Hall and Travis Jones, not your typical interior defensive lineman, but it's the NFL, and coaches get paid to do what their name says, coach. So they can take college players and mold them a little bit, move them around. Maybe their college coaches didn't have them in the best spot. That's what the NFL is all about, getting coaches to get the best out of players. So those are my top 5 defensive tackles to watch for. As for some linebackers to keep an eye on, Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean are the top 2 cats in this draft class. They are studs. They are going to be studs in the NFL. I think they cannot be bust, all right? When you compare them head to head, it basically leans toward Lloyd's side. Now, Nakobe Dean's maybe a better athlete. He's more of your sideline to sideline linebacker. But here's the deal with Lloyd. He does all 3 things a linebacker you dream to do. He can stop the run, 22 tackles for a loss. 111 tackles altogether. He can rush the passer, 8 sacks, and he can work in pass coverage, 4 interceptions. He checks all 3 boxes and in like a bold pen. I'm talking like a Sharpie, not a skinny Sharpie, not a tiny pencil, big fat Sharpie, P-H-A-T Sharpie. And I say all that, and Nakobe Dean is still a beast. Nakobe Dean is super athletic, and his stats are just a little bit worse than Devin Lloyd, but he's still going to be a phenomenal player for whatever team picks him. We look at the other linebackers to keep an eye on. Chad Muma, the linebacker from Wyoming. Again, I feel bad for 3 through 5 here because they're just not Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean, but they are guys to keep an eye on for in rounds 2 and rounds 3. The linebacker out of Wisconsin, Leo Chenal, he's also a very athletic linebacker that can do a lot of damage in the run game. And finally, a name that I think is too low on my list as I record this right now, Brian Asamoah. He may be like a Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah light, where he's a safety that can play linebacker, kind of like JOK. We're super athletic, and he can play multiple positions, and that's kind of what Joe Woods likes to do at that linebacker spot. So JOK and Asamoah would be a nightmare for the broadcast booth for opposing teams, but would be a nightmare for opposing offensive linemen going up against the Browns. We've seen a bunch of colleges so far. So who is your favorite player from your college team? I'll show you mine in just a second, and that would be the 25th player to keep an eye on for at the Combine. But let me know, who's your favorite player from your favorite college? You got to get the 2 combination together in this draft class. For me, I'm a Tennessee Vols guy, and so Alontae Taylor is a name just to keep an eye on for. He'll be a day 3 pick. He's a defensive back that made some noise, 2 interceptions, 6 PBUs, and Alontae Taylor, I don't know if he's going to be a great fit for the Browns because the Browns don't have a glaring need at corner, but Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams entering the final year of their contract, so maybe Andrew Berry goes, you know what, we're going to extend Ward, but we're not interested in paying Ward, Williams, and Newsome big-ish money because Newsome has got a first-round contract. So we'll let Greedy Williams walk, and we'll get Alontae Taylor in the 4th or 5th round, much cheaper to replace him, but get a year under his belt before he's got to step up and take Williams' spot. Now we're going to wrap up the show by talking about Myles Garrett, who was just bombarded by TMZ reporters asking him about Baker Mayfield. I thought it was kind of gross. I mean, I get it. You got to do your job. I got to do my job. Sometimes I swing for the fences on rumors that aren't super realistic, but what'd you guys expect? So here's what Myles Garrett was saying when he was asked about Baker Mayfield and if he's his quarterback. He goes, I mean, he's my quarterback. He's my guy. He stuck by us. I'm going to stick by him. And that's exactly right. Props to Baker Mayfield. He got seriously hurt. He tore and broke multiple things in his shoulders that I can't even remember at this point. Labrum, humerus, hurt his heel, hurt everything basically. And he still went out there and battled for his team because he wanted to give his team the best shot of winning. And whether that was him or not, that's up for Kevin Stefanski to decide. But power to Baker. I mean, honestly, shout out to Baker for pushing himself and playing through injuries because he believed I'm the best opportunity for this team to get a win, and I'm going to go out and play and battle through these injuries. All right, that's going to do it for us here on the Cleveland Browns Report. Make sure you hit that big red sub button, and we'll catch you guys later with the latest Cleveland Browns news and rumors.